Good day, students. On this clip, we're going to be going over how to generate the unit circle, an easy way to remember it. So before we get started, I need to go over two things which are really important. In order for you to be able to do this, you have to remember these two facts. First thing has to do with a sequence of numbers, okay? This sequence keeps repeating itself on the unit circle. And this is a sequence I need you to have memorized. And it's a sequence 0, 1/2, root 2 over 2, root 3 over 2, and 1. Okay, so you need to have this sequence memorized. It's going to really help you master the unit circle. The next thing I need you to memorize is the reference angles. Okay, there are only three reference angles I need you to memorize. Reference angles, and they are 30 degrees, uh, 45 degrees, and 60 degrees. Okay, think back to geometry. What is or trig, what is the meaning of a reference angle? Basically, the reference angle is the angular measure from the terminal side to the closest x-axis. Okay, let me give you the four cases of reference angle, and then that's basically what's going to guide our creation or our generation of the reference angles. Okay, so let's say you had four terminal sides like this in the four different quadrants. So what are your reference angles going to be? In quadrant 1, this is the terminal side, so the reference angle is going to be this measure right here. This is your reference angle for quadrant 1. And then for quadrant 2, this is your reference angle right here. So let's call this theta 1. And in quadrant 2, this is your reference angle. In quadrant 3, this is the terminal side, so this is your reference angle. In quadrant 4, this is your terminal side right here, so this is your reference angle. So these are the reference angles in all four quadrants, okay? So let's keep that in mind, because I'm going to use this to generate the angular measures of each point within each quadrant of my unit circle, all right? So please have these memorized, and it's going to really help you to know how to draw the unit circle, okay? So this is basically all you need to remember, the sequence of numbers, and the fact that these are your three reference angles. Okay? All right, now let's go ahead and create the unit circle. So first thing you want to do is draw a circle. You can do this by hand. And after you draw your circle, I'm going to use a computer here. I'm going to have a perfect circle as I'm cheating. After you draw your perfect circle, you're going to divide it into four quadrants. Okay, this is my center. So divide your circle into four quadrants like this. Okay, like that. All right. Now, next first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to put in points. All right. I'm going to put in points. So, what did we just draw? What we just drew is a unit circle. What on earth does a unit circle mean? A unit circle is a circle of radius 1. And what is a radius? A radius is the distance from the center to the circumference, right? So this is my x-axis, this is my y-axis, this is my origin, which is 0, 0. If I go 1 unit to the right, because this is like a radius, if I go 1 unit to the right, what would the coordinates of this point be on your graph? Well, since the unit circle is going to be 1 unit in the x direction and no units in the y, so the coordinates of this point will be 1 for the x and 0 for the y. Okay? So this is my positive x. If I go to the left, this is going to be negative. On the x coordinates, I went 1 unit to the left, so what would this coordinates be? This coordinates would be negative 1 in the x direction and 0 on the y because I didn't go up or down. Alright? So there goes your 2 points. Now I can go down on my y and up on my y to generate the other 2 sets of points. If I go 1 unit up, because this is a unit circle, there's no movement on my x direction, so 0 for the x coordinate. And then for the y, I went up 1 unit to its positive 1. Okay? Going down 1 unit, it's 0 in the x direction and negative 1 on the y because I went down 1 unit from the y. Remember, this is a unit circle, so this distance from the center to the extremity is always 1. Okay, so that goes your 4 coordinates. Now, what I'm going to do next, I'm going to put in 3 points. I'm going to put in 1.1, 2, 3. You're going to put in 3 points evenly spaced in each quadrant. So 1, 2, 2, 3. And then here 1, 2, 3. Just space them as evenly as you can. And then over here, 1, 2, 3. Okay? Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw terminal sides to these 3 lines. Okay, so my first one is going to be like this. I'm going to leave some space here because I'm going to put in some numbers there in a minute. That goes my first one, and then my second one, there, and then my third one, there, and then my fourth one. Just connect these lines. I'm not connecting it because I'm going to have to erase the lines in a minute. So just draw a line to all the 3 sides. Okay, so there goes the fourth one, and then the fifth one, and then the sixth one. Alright, so there goes the lines. I'm leaving some space because I'm going to be putting some numbers in there. Now I'm going to go on to quadrant 3. Alright, so in quadrant 3, just draw the lines. If you use a pencil, is nice so that you can erase it. So draw a line. I'm going to leave some space here because I'm going to be putting some numbers there in a minute. And then to the other line, leave some space. And then to the other line, leave some space. And then fourth quadrant, I'm going to go to this line. I'm going to leave some space. And to this line, leave some space. And then to that line. Okay? Alright, now what we're going to do next is we're going to find out the angular measures of each angle. Okay, so before I start, I'm going to label my quadrants. This is 0 degrees. Hopefully you know that. This is 0 degrees right here. 0 degrees. Now, if I go quarter of a circle, this side right here is going to be 90 degrees. Okay? Quarter of a circle is 90 degrees. Half a circle, every quarter is 90, right? So remember right triangle in geometry? This is a right triangle right here, so that means this whole thing is 90 degrees. So this is 90 degrees. This is going to be 180 because it's 2 quarters. If you add 2 quarters, you get 180. If add another quarter to 180, you have 180 plus 90. Which is what? 270 degrees. So this right here is going to be 270 degrees. And if I add another quarter right here, you're going to end up with this becoming 360. Okay? So 0 and 360 are basically coterminal angles. So let me put a 360 down here so it doesn't look messy. Alright. Now, what we're going to do next is find the value of each of these points that I put in there. Okay? 3 per quadrant. So to find those out, I'm going to use my reference angles. Okay? So my reference angles, remember, they are 30, 60, and 90. Okay, let me put them in. So this one is 30. This first one is 30 degrees. The next one is, over that one. The next one is 45 degrees. This angle right here is 45. And then the next one is 60. Okay, so this angular measure right here is 60 degrees. All right, so that helps me determine the angles of these 3 segments. Okay, so what am I going to do? I'm going to go to quadrant 2 and do the same thing. I'm going to go 30 degrees going up. Let me do the other one down here going down. That's also 30 degrees. And then here going down, that's also 30 degrees. Okay, all right, now let's put in the 45s. So going to the second line from here, that's 45 degrees. And then this one going from the center up to the second line is 45 degrees. 45. And then this one right here is also 45 degrees. Alright. Alright, and then the last one is 60 degrees. So going to the last line from here around to this line right there, that's 60 degrees. And then for this quadrant, quadrant 2, going from here all the way there, that's 60 degrees. And then here, go all the way to that line. Do it again. So let's see. If I go all the way from here, all the way to there, that's 60 degrees. Okay, so remember that the center one is 45 degrees. So let's write that down again so you see. So that's 45. Okay, so now another thing to note is your direction of rotation. If you're going up counterclockwise, that direction is positive, because you're going to be adding. If you're going clockwise, you're going to be subtracting. That's negative. Alright? Okay, so let's keep that in mind. So what are our angles going to be? So using 0, 30, 60, 90, we can figure out what these angles are. So the first one is 0 plus 30. Since the first line is 30, what is 0 plus 30? 0 plus 30 is 30 degrees. The second line is 45 degrees from 0. So what's 0 plus 45? 45 degrees. The other line is 60 degrees from 0. What's 60 degrees from 0? 60 degrees. Okay, you see how the unit circle helps us calculate that? All right, now let's figure out this side. This first line is 30 degrees going back, reversing from 180. Remember, if you're going in a counterclockwise direction, you subtract, right? So if I go from 180 and I backtrack 30 degrees, what is that going to be? It's going to be 180 minus 30, right? Which is 150 degrees. So this one is going to be 150 degrees. That's why I left the space there so I can put in these angular measures. The next one, I'm backing up 145 degrees from 180. So what is that going to be? It's going to be 180 minus 45. You can do the arithmetic. 180 minus 45 is 135. So this is 135. And then the last line, you back up 60 degrees. Remember, we're going in a clockwise direction, which means you subtract. Back up 60 degrees from 180, and you have 120. All right? So you have the degree measures of quadrant 1 and 2 completed. Now let's focus on quadrants 3 and 4. All right? So starting from quadrant 3, we're going to start from 180, and we're going to advance 30 degrees. 30 degrees from 180 gives you 210. 45 degrees from 180, we're adding 45 to 180, that gives you 225. You just add it. And then 60 degrees from 180, you just add 60 to 180, that gives you 240 degrees. All right, quadrant 3 done. For quadrant 4, we're going to use the reference angles and go clockwise, which means we're going to subtract. So from 360, I subtract 30, I'll have 330. From 360, I subtract 45. From 360, because I'm reversing, going to clockwise direction, 45 minus 360 gives you 315. And then from 360, I reverse, I take out 60, I end up with 300 degrees. Okay? So that's basically how you generate your angles. Now let's figure out the coordinates. What are the coordinates? 1 to 3, 1 to 3, 1 to 3, 1 to 3, all these 9 points, what are they? So I'm going to put the parentheses in there, and then I'll tell you how to generate those, okay? So the parentheses here, parentheses here, parentheses here, parentheses here, parentheses here, parentheses here. Okay? Same goes for the 210, the 225, the 240, the 300, the 315, and the 330. Okay? Alright, now let's figure them out. Let's start with quadrant 1. Okay? So one thing to note is that y is positive and x is positive, so we're going to have positive, positive. Both coordinates are going to be positive. Okay? So how do you populate these? Remember the sequence of numbers I asked you to memorize? 0, 1 over 2, root 2 over 2, root 3 over 2, and 1. That's what we're going to be using to fill out this. Okay, so starting from 0, we're starting from 0 in the x, we're going to go all the way to 1. What numbers do we put here? We just simply put in these numbers, 1/2, root 2 over 2, and root 3 over 2. These numbers in the center. Okay, so we're going to have 0, 1/2, root 2 over 2, root 3 over 2, and 1 is already filled in. Okay, now for the y, we're going to go 0, same sequence all the way to 1. Okay, so 0, 1/2, root 2 over 2, root 3 over 2, and then 1. Okay? Now, what are the signs of these coordinates? Plus, plus, which means they're all positives. Okay? We don't need to bother about the signs here. Now, let's shift to quadrant 2. Same procedure. Okay? Now, let's start with a 0 on the x. We're going to go all the way to -1 on the y. Okay, so 0 to 1. Let's forget about the signs first. So 0 to 1, we're going to have 0. What's next in the sequence of numbers? 1/2. Root 2 over 2, root 3 over 2, and then 1. Okay? And then from 0 to 1 on the y coordinate, we're going to have 0, same pattern, 1/2, root 2 over 2, and root 3 over 2. Okay, you see that pattern follows? So on this side, the quadrants, we have negative, positive, which means that all the x's are going to be negative and the y's are going to be positives, okay? So we have to put a minus in front of all the x coordinate values, minus, 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 all right? Okay, now you can see how these points basically repeat themselves, but the only difference here is that the x's are negative. This pattern just continues over and over again, okay? All right, let's look at quadrant 3. In parentheses, we're starting from 0 on the y, on the x, and go all the way to -1 on the x. Okay, so 0 after 0 is 1/2. That sequence I asked you to memorize. Roots 2 over 2, roots 3 over 2, and -1. And then go to the y0, 1/2, roots 2 over 2, roots 3 over 2, and then -1. What are the signs here? We have negative on the x, negative on the y, so it's negative, negative. So both coordinates are going to be negative. So minus, 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 minus. Okay? Negative, negative. So there goes your points. All right? Now, the last quadrant, parenthesis, we're going to go from 0 to 1 on the x. So 0, 1/2, roots 2 over 2, roots 3 over 2. If you have this sequence memorized, you go really fast through the whole process, okay? And then 0 to 1 on the y, 0, 1/2, roots 2 over 2, roots 3 over 2, and then -1, okay? So what are the signs here? We have x is positive, y is negative. So we're going to go make the y's negate the y. So minus, minus, minus here, and minus there, okay? Let me fix this point of 300. It looks a little bit messy. Let me fix that for you. So we have, so -2 over 2, we have 1/2. Using the sequence, after -2 over 2, you have 1/2. And then before going from 1, you have roots 3 over 2. And then the the y is negative. All right, so there goes all your coordinates, okay? So remember, 1/2 and root 3 over 2 always go with each other, either in this order or in the reverse order. That's another trick you can use, okay? Now, some people might want to add on the radian measures. So the radian measures is not that difficult as long as you know how to convert from degree to radian. Let me do the first quadrant for you, okay? So if I wanted to find out the radian measure for 30, all I'll do is I'll multiply 30 degrees by its conversion factor, which is pi over 180 degrees. Okay, so the degrees cancel out, the zeros divide out. You have 3 pi over 18, divide by 3 top and bottom, and then you end up with pi over 6. Okay, so you can memorize this or you can work it out, but if you forget, you can always work it out. So 30 degrees is the same thing as pi over 6. How about 45 degrees? Let me work it out here. 45 degrees will multiply by the same conversion factor. So 45 degrees will multiply by pi over 180. All right, the degrees cancel out. 45 over pi, 45 pi over 180. And then we divide both sides by 45, both the top and the bottom. If I divide by 45, both top and the bottom, I'm going to end up with pi over 4 because 45 goes in at 184 times. So this one is pi over 4. Now let's work out 60 degrees. You notice that in this procedure I'm doing right now, I'm not memorizing it a lot. I'm just deriving, I'm just working them out using the rules that we've covered in trigonometry. Okay, so 60 degrees times the conversion factor, which is pi over 180. Right? Remember, pi and 180 are the same thing, right? So the degrees cancel out. 60 goes into itself once, goes into 180 3 times. So 60 degrees is pi over 3. So 60 degrees is pi over 3. All right, let's do the last one. Let's do 90 degrees. What is the radian angular measure for 90 degrees? Let's work that out also. Notice we're constantly multiplying by pi over 180. That's the conversion factor that we learned before. So 90 degrees times pi over 180 degrees. The degrees cancel out. 90 goes here, 190 goes here twice. So the radian measure here is pi over 2. Okay? This is pi over 2. This is 3. This is pi. Sorry. This is pi. This is 3 pi over 2. And this is 2 pi. I have that memorized. You can always work them out. Okay? 2 pi and 0 are also of the same measure. An additional thing to note is that all 6 trig ratios are positive in quadrant 1. Let me include that. So erase that out of there because that's a part of the circle. So you have all 6 trig ratios are positive here. So A for all. And then only sine and cosecant are positive here, S. tan and cotangent are positive here, and then C is for cosine. Only cosine and cosecant are positive here. Okay, so C is for cosine and secant. S is for sine and cosecant. They're positive. Okay, these are positive. And then here, this T is for tan and cotangent. These two are positive and this is positive. Okay, where you have these two being positive, that means that all the other 6 are negative. Okay, so A means all 6 of them are positive. Sine, cosecant, cosine, secant, tan, and cotangent, all trig functions and their reciprocal identities are all positive in quadrant 1. Okay, but in other quadrants, only 2 are positive, the rest 4 are negative. Okay, so there goes your unit circle. So just remember your continuum, 0, 1 half, root 2, root 2, root 2, root 2, 1, and reference angles, 30, 60, and 30, 45, 60, and you should be able to construct this without any problems. Okay? So thanks so much for taking the time to watch this video. Please feel free to subscribe to my channel just by clicking up here. More collection of clips can be found on microchef.com. Thanks again and have a wonderful day.